Welcome to the MI Hunting Podcast. It's springtime, spring activities, and that means seasons are closing and others are opening. All right, welcome to the MI Hunting Podcast. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. It is April, and we are looking at that switch between winter and spring. I mean, we've got some crazy weather going on right now. It seems like every weekend we're getting a snowstorm the past few weeks, and then during the week it's nice and sunny and warm. So, but what are you going to do? This is Michigan and parts of the Midwest. You know what I'm talking about. So, yeah, at this point, I've really hung up and put away the ice fishing gear. And really starting to look forward to the next coming months, really, of all the seasons that are going to open up soon, and really the preparation. I'm really starting to think about my plan for deer season of what food plots I'm going to do, and kind of what my mindset is going into it of how I'm going to address doing my habitat work and prepare for this upcoming season, really. Before we get into the things that are coming up, with the change of the seasons, really, let's dive into a couple of stories from the Conservation News Desk. All right, so this first story comes from Fox News from March 24th. Colorado fishermen ordered to pay over $1,000 each after catching 463 pounds of Michigan fish. So a group of 6 Colorado men in total have been charged for illegally fishing 463 pounds of salmon from the Manistee River back in October 2022. Michigan Department of Resources reported that the men did not have valid fishing license and were using illegal tackle. At the time, the government-run agency wrote the department officers received a tip from another angler who witnessed the crime. Responding officers reportedly saw the men attempting to break off their fishing lines to hide their illegal fishing gear. The Michigan Department of Resources reported that the group possessed 17 salmon taken by illegal methods, and eventually they did willingly admit of their illegal activities. In addition, 40 to 50 salmon were recovered from coolers that were kept in the suspects' vehicles, and some of the fish were already filleted. Now, if the men had been properly licensed, they would have been allowed to keep up to 30 fish in total. Prior to the group's arraignment, the Michigan Department of Natural Resources reported that the men could face a monetary penalty of more than $4,600 in restitution and additional costs. They go on to say that the rivers of Michigan are home to coho and Chinook salmon, and the department considers the two species a valuable public natural resource. So they go on to say, too, that the authorities of the Michigan DNR announced that the 463 pounds of salmon were donated to local Manistee County families the same day that they were recovered. So at least they didn't go to waste. But it's really interesting that this group came from Colorado, and clearly the fact that they were trying to break off their equipment, they knew that they were in the wrong in this instance. So pour it on these fishermen, and good on the DNR conservation officers for putting a stop to it. Who knows how many fish these guys would have taken out of the river. This definitely seems like an instance where these guys were, going a bit excessive in regards to the number of fish they were catching. And I'm a little curious to read that, they really didn't report much else on any of their penalties. Again, they didn't even have licenses, so I guess taking away someone's fishing license to come back to the state, I don't know if that's something that they were going to enforce on these guys, or if it was just going to be the monetary punishment for these for this group of individuals. Again, good on the DNR for catching these guys, and for those guys, shame on you for knowingly breaking the rules and trying to get away with it. All right, so this next article comes to us from bowhunting.com. Scientists grow mini antlers on mice using stem cells from deer. This article was written on March 21st. So very, very peculiar situation here. So we'll get into it. The deer antlers grow fast. Many hunters and non-hunters alike marvel at a buck's ability to develop antlers within a few months. It's a fascinating process, to say the least. Deer antlers are easily one of the fastest growing appendages, an animal growing as fast as 3/4 of an inch per day in the growth cycle. Scientists have studied the phenomenon for years, but now a focused effort is taking place to see how rapid bone development could be adapted to potentially heal bone injuries and regrow limbs in humans. So how the heck are they doing that? So scientists at the Northwestern Polytechnical University in China are researching the potential to harness the rapid growth rate of antler tissue by implementing stem cells from sick deer antlers into the foreheads of lab mice. And so far, the results haven't been terribly impressive. In fact, they shared some images of these antlers, potential antlers, I guess, growing on the skulls of these mice. Again, does not look anything like a typical antler. Kind of like what the illustration on top there. Clearly not a representation of what these scientists are, getting for a result. The report also goes on to state that it's not the first time the scientists have grown antler-like headgear on mice. Back in 2020, researchers surgically removed antler tissue from living deer and used cryogenic freezing mill to process the antler material before inserting it into mice. The test result produced mice growing visible antler-like protrusions on their heads. Researchers say our results suggest that deer have an application in clinical bone repair. Beyond that, the introduction of human cells into antler-like cells could be used to regenerate regenerative medicine for skeletal injuries and limb regeneration. And then they go on to reference a article by Field and Stream. Then they go on to by investigating the cellular makeup of the article by Field and Stream. Expression dynamics started by investigating the cellular makeup of the anyone knows what that means. Expression dynamics of antler tissue throughout various stages of growth. Once they had isolated tissue throughout various stages populations. Once they had isolated potency and potential for regenerative populations, they started inserting those cells directly into the potential for regenerative effect. They started inserting those cells directly into the most effective cell implants were those derived from shed antlers. The most effective cell implants were those derived from shed antlers that were no more than 5 days old. Those cells were harvested from the antler pedicle. Those cells were harvested from the antler which pedicle. You know what? That kind of makes sense. Which are the base of the antler connections going off the pedicle, because that's where. You know what? That kind of makes sense. That's where the base of antler growth comes from. Because that's where you would suspect that's where the base of antler growth that comes from. Most responsible. You would suspect that for antler growth, that would be the location most responsible. More likely. For antler growth, that would be the location. So the more likely cultured in petri dishes, the transplanted. Then the planted in the ear, cultured between the ears, the transplanted hairless mice. Then planted 45 days between the ears, the mice begin to develop hairless-like structures. Within 45 days of implementation, the mice begin to develop antler-like fascinating undertaking will certainly keep our eyes on the process to see. They go on to say the fascinating undertaking will certainly keep our eyes on the process to see procedures deer antlers will be used for potential. So again, another one of those really interesting things where people are kind of messing around with. So again, another one of those really interesting things where people are kind of messing around with genetics, find solutions to try to medical conditions, find solutions to try to help humans, medical conditions, medical breakthroughs. Just try to help. Again, very interesting with medical breakthroughs. Work that they're doing. So. Again, very interesting. Sometimes there's some of those that work that they're doing. Like, maybe they shouldn't be playing around with this type of stuff. Sometimes there's some of those that I'm kind of like feel sorry for the mice playing around with this type of stuff. Crazy things out their skulls. feel sorry for the mice that are growing something crazy things out of their skulls. But that could be beneficial if they're able to help with bone regeneration. That could be beneficial if they're able to see the application help with that bone regeneration. To help people out. Could see. All right, so that is it from the news desk. Again, a couple interesting stories. The one about the mice is quite unique, but that's a growing trend of more and more people using characteristics and traits of animals to see if it can be used to benefit mankind. All right, next we've got a update on a couple of events to keep in mind. Again, I'm a big fan of the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, especially for here in Michigan. We've got a pretty good elk herd that I hope one day to be able to have an opportunity to hunt. Last year, I went to one of their banquets local here, and it was an absolute blast. And I had looked forward to going again. Just so happens that the banquet that I had planned on going to conflicts with another event that I plan to go to as well. So I've had to make a decision on that. I'm not going to go to the Elk Foundation banquet, at least the local one, but I am going to try to make it to another one that's actually it's for the Pigeon River chapter banquet, which is right in the heart of where the elk herd really is, or at least part of it. Over on the west side of the state, we really don't have elk running around in our area. So it will be interesting to go to a banquet that's kind of right in the heart of where the elk herd is. But again, we've got several dates that are here in Michigan. Of course, the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation is pretty much nationwide. And if you want to attend one of their events or banquets, go to their website and go to their event tab and find the event that's near you. Again, if you have a chance to go to one of their banquets, I highly encourage it. They're pretty fun. Make sure you bring your pocketbook, because a lot of money gets spent in regards to the raffles, the giveaways, and the live auction especially. That's quite a thing to watch. And it's almost difficult not to get caught up in all the action and start throwing some bids out yourself. All right, and next I want to highlight some key dates, especially for here in Michigan. Like I said in the intro, that we're really making a transition from for different seasons, really. The transition between the kind of the winter activities and the spring to summer activities is, we're on the doorstep of those transitions, or those switches there. So to highlight a few things, again, the big one that's coming up is turkey season. So the leftover tags are available now. So if you didn't draw a tag that you wanted to, or didn't put in for a draw, now is the time to buy a turkey license if you plan on going out turkey hunting. And actually, I was looking through some of them. So some of the earlier hunts and some units are still available. So they still have tags left over. So if you want to get into some of the earlier seasons, make sure you get in and purchase a tag ahead of time. So of course, our season opener here in Michigan is April 22nd. So that's the first season, pretty much throughout the course or throughout the whole state. And then you have, in many of the units, you have a second season that runs through as well after that first week. And then, of course, you have the statewide 234 hunt. That's statewide, and it runs from May 6th through the 31st. And again, in my experience, those earlier seasons, you're going to have a little bit easier time as long as the weather cooperates for you. You do have a shorter window to be able to hunt, but at least in my experience, it's been a little bit more action-packed, a little bit easier hunting. It just seems that the turkeys are a little bit more fired up, a little more anxious, and a little more responsive to calls or decoys. As you get further into the season, they wise up and become a little bit harder to hunt, at least in my experience. Again, you may have a different experience where you hunt, so it's a kind of a give and take. Do you go for one of the earlier seasons that are shorter, or do you allow for more time for that later season that may be a little bit tougher? And now that we're into April, small game season has ended. The last day was March 31st, so your rabbit and squirrel or anything else that falls in that small game category And then as of March, the Pure Michigan application, hunt is available. So if you want to put in for that, again, there's a big old prize package for basically your entire group of tags and licenses for the year, as well as an opportunity to go out for an elk hunt, bear hunt, all that type of stuff. So a huge giveaway. Again, it goes towards that hunt, as well as any of the funds go to conservation as well. And again, those are only $5 a piece. So basically, every time I buy a tag, I throw in $5 for another application for that Pure Michigan hunt. Again, a lot of people put into it, and there's no limit on how many entries you can put in. So your odds are very low of drawing, but you never know. You may get your name pulled from that hat. All right, and then next there's a lot of fishing opportunities. Again, some of the seasons have kind of closed down for some of the spawning, but they will be opening up again. The big one that I'm looking forward to is the pike and walleye opening up again. Again, they shut down a little bit for the spawn period, but season opens up again at the end of April. So April 29th is that season opener again. Now, again, some of you that are in the certain areas that the season never closes. We're looking at the St. Clair or Lake St. Clair River, and the Detroit rivers. Those are open year round. So if you're in that area, or if you want to take a trip over there, those seasons, you can get kind of a jump start onto it. I'm actually going to probably take up a friend of mine who offered to take me out. So I may take advantage of that and go fish the other side of the state. And as well for the pike and walleye, the UP waters, unfortunately, you got to hold out a little bit longer. That season doesn't open up until May 15th. And another big one that's opening up is the salmon and trout season, again, for statewide. So again, that opens up on April 29th. Now, certainly there are some waters that are open year round, but this is basically the opener to open up throughout the entire state. So some of the waters were closed, but they will be opening up at the end of the month. And of course, your panfish and perch, they're open year round. So you always have an opportunity with that. And of course, always check with your local regs, depending on season dates and locations that are open and time frames and species that are available to you. Always double check that. You don't want to end up like those Colorado guys, be fishing for the wrong species at the wrong time at the wrong place. So that's it for really the updates. For this next month, I'm still kind of undecided right now on when or what season I want to try to go for turkey season. Again, I could go for that earlier season, increase my odds a little bit with that shorter time frame, though. I hope that I don't find myself buying a tag that I don't actually have time to be able to go out and try hunting. So I will have to make a decision soon, because I'm sure those leftover tags for that earlier season are going to go fast. And then also, again, I know my youngest daughter, she is very eager to hit the open water to do some more fishing again. It's kind of funny. I end up having my oldest daughter, she likes to go ice fishing. My youngest doesn't like it so much. She likes going out on the boat, and then vice versa. The oldest doesn't care so much for going out on the boat. So either way, I kind of win, because I got a child that likes to go do one or the other. So I always have kind of a fishing buddy. And again, my oldest, she's actually piquing her interest of trying to do some hunting this year. So I kind of mentioned to her again about potentially her going out and going turkey hunting with me, and she seemed like she was open to the idea. So we're going to try that out again this year, see kind of if she's still wanting to give it a shot when we get closer to season. And then after that, the next big thing again is looking at my plan going forward when it comes to getting ready for deer season. At this point, does will be dropping their fawns within the next couple months, and we're going to be looking at doing our spring, summer food plot cover crop, work. So I'm going to be trying a couple new techniques. I've been learning a little bit more about soil health and the microbes and the connection between microbes and your minerals and your soil composition. So again, going to do a little bit more about trying to cut down my inputs, trying to save myself some costs, and also try some different techniques about terminating your weeds or winter food plot, whatever's left. The one really interesting thing, again, the big talk about glyphosate. Again, there's the concern of it causing cancers, as well as I learned at a seminar this past month that basically glyphosate can actually bind up some of your macronutrients and even some of your micronutrients as well. So it actually could be starving your plants that you're trying to grow from getting the nutrients that they want, or that they need anyway. So again, trying to cut back on that, trying some different techniques. Probably the one I'm going to try this year is using a roller crimper. So I don't know if I'm going to do a complete elimination of using glyphosate, but I am going to certainly cut it back quite a bit to see how well the roller crimper, at least in my instance, will work. Again, to my knowledge, you kind of want to have a good, nice level field to work with. Where I don't really have that. It's quite bumpy. There's even some holes in it. That may not get a good termination just using the roller alone, but I am going to do some tests to see how that performs. Again, the other thing with crimping is that sometimes your timing has to be right. If the plants aren't quite the right phase, then you may not get a good termination. And then also looking at a better mix of plants that are going to work better with, again, the nutrients and the microbes, and doing that the nitrogen cycling. And then also help build the soil, build up carbon in the soil. Again, it's going to feed the whole system. But again, there's time to talk about that more in detail, and hopefully can share a little bit more information about exactly what my plan is, and actually hopefully get some people on that can help explain the process a little bit better than even what I can in the next coming months, to really share that with you and to help you with your food plot program. But that's it for this episode. Again, hopefully you get out there. Again, this is kind of a time frame where we're starting to break out of the winter funk and getting shaking off the hopefully you get out there and getting out there into enjoying the spring weather. This is kind of time frame where so I do hope we're starting to break out there of the winter funk, and do hope you have time to enjoy it. Shaking off the winter cold, be safe, and getting out there into